Helena Blavatsky, the enigmatic founder of Theosophy, revealed one of humanity's most profound mysteries: why we continuously return to this earthly plane of existence. According to her extensive teachings, drawn from ancient wisdom traditions of the East and West, our repeated incarnations are not random events, but follow precise spiritual laws that govern the evolution of consciousness itself. The concept of reincarnation, as Blavatsky explained, is far more complex than the simple notion of souls returning in new bodies. She taught that we are eternal beings on an evolutionary journey spanning countless lifetimes, each incarnation carefully orchestrated by the universal law of karma to provide exactly the experiences needed for our spiritual development. This process is not punishment, but rather the compassionate mechanism by which the universe ensures every soul eventually achieves enlightenment. Blavatsky emphasized that reincarnation operates on multiple levels simultaneously. While our physical bodies return to dust, our higher principles, what she called the higher self, or Atman, carries forward the accumulated wisdom, tendencies, and karmic debts from previous lives. This explains why we are born with certain talents, fears, attractions, and aversions that seem to have no basis in our current life experiences. The driving force behind our return is unfinished business on the soul level. Blavatsky taught that we incarnate not merely to suffer or enjoy the consequences of past actions, but to learn specific lessons that can only be mastered through direct experience in the physical world. Each lifetime presents us with carefully designed challenges and opportunities that, when properly understood and navigated, advance our consciousness toward its ultimate goal of reunion with the divine source from which we originally emerged. Chapter 2. The Law of Karma. Unveiled, Blavatsky described karma as the most fundamental law governing all existence, far beyond the oversimplified notion of good deeds bringing good results. In her seminal work, The Secret Doctrine, she revealed karma as an intricate web of cause and effect that operates on physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels simultaneously, creating the exact conditions needed for each soul's evolutionary progress. The law of karma, according to Blavatsky's teachings, is neither cruel nor kind. It is perfectly just. Every thought, emotion, word, and action creates energetic ripples that must eventually return to their source. However, she emphasized that karma is not fatalistic. We are not helplessly bound by past actions. Instead, karma provides the raw material for our current life circumstances, which we can then transform through conscious choice and spiritual understanding. Blavatsky taught that there are three types of karma operating simultaneously: sanchita karma, the accumulated store of past actions; prarabdha karma, the portion of past karma that creates our current life circumstances; and kriyamana karma, the new karma we create through our present actions. Understanding this threefold division helps explain why some people seem to face undeserved hardships, while others appear to coast through life effortlessly. The most profound aspect of Blavatsky's karma teachings is that karma operates not just individually, but collectively. Families, communities, nations, and even entire civilizations share group karma that binds them together across multiple incarnations. This explains the deep connections we feel with certain people upon first meeting, as well as the seemingly random circumstances that bring specific souls together to work out their mutual karmic obligations and learn from one another. Chapter 3. The 7 Principles of Human Constitution. To understand why we keep returning, Blavatsky explained, we must first understand what we truly are. Her teachings reveal that humans are not simply bodies with souls, but complex beings composed of 7 distinct principles or levels of consciousness, each operating according to different laws, and serving different purposes in our spiritual evolution. The lower four principles, the physical body, vital energy, desire, nature, and lower mind, are temporary vehicles that dissolve at death. However, the upper three principles, higher mind, spiritual intuition, and the divine spark, form our imperishable spiritual core that carries forward from incarnation to incarnation. This sevenfold constitution explains why death is merely a transition rather than an ending, as our essential consciousness continues its journey through different states of being. Blavatsky taught that during life, these seven principles must learn to work in harmony, with the higher principles gradually gaining dominance over the lower ones. This process of inner integration is the true purpose of human existence, and it typically requires many lifetimes to achieve. Each incarnation provides opportunities to strengthen certain principles while learning to transmute the energies of others. The desire nature, or what Blavatsky called karma, plays a crucial role in bringing us back to physical incarnation. Unfulfilled desires, attachments, and cravings create magnetic attractions that draw the consciousness back to earthly life. However, she emphasized that desire itself is not evil. It becomes a problem only when it dominates the higher principles and keeps us trapped in purely material pursuits. Understanding our sevenfold nature empowers us to work consciously with these principles, accelerating our spiritual development and potentially reducing the number of incarnations needed to achieve liberation. Blavatsky provided specific practices and guidelines for strengthening the higher principles while gradually purifying and refining the lower ones, creating a more harmonious and spiritually aligned human being. Chapter 4. The Wheel of Becoming. Blavatsky described reincarnation as a wheel of becoming, where consciousness moves through predictable cycles of birth, growth, maturity, death, and rebirth. This wheel is not circular but spiral, meaning that while we may encounter similar lessons and challenges across lifetimes, we approach them from progressively higher levels of understanding and capability. The timing of our reincarnation, according to Blavatsky's teachings, is not arbitrary, but follows cosmic rhythms and personal karmic necessities. Souls typically spend varying periods in the afterlife states, processing their most recent incarnation and preparing for the next one. The length of this interim period depends on the soul's development level, the intensity of its earthly attachments, and the specific lessons it needs to integrate before returning. Blavatsky taught that we choose our next incarnation's basic parameters, including family, geographical location, physical constitution, and major life challenges, while in a state of expanded consciousness between lives. This choice is made in conjunction with advanced beings who guide the reincarnation process, ensuring that each soul receives exactly the experiences needed for its continued evolution. The Wheel of Becoming operates according to the principle of alternation. Blavatsky explained that souls often alternate between different types of incarnations, male and female, active and contemplative, privileged and challenging circumstances, to develop all aspects of human potential. This explains why advanced souls sometimes choose difficult lives, knowing that such experiences will provide opportunities for rapid spiritual growth. Understanding the Wheel of Becoming helps us recognize that our current circumstances, no matter how challenging, are precisely what our soul needs for its development. This knowledge can transform our relationship with life's difficulties, helping us approach them as opportunities for growth rather than meaningless suffering. Chapter 5. The Role of Desire and Attachment. According to Blavatsky's teachings, desire is the primary engine that drives reincarnation. However, she made crucial distinctions between different types of desire, some of which bind us to the wheel of rebirth, while others can actually accelerate our spiritual liberation. Understanding these distinctions is essential for anyone seeking to consciously participate in their spiritual evolution. Personal desires for material possessions, sensual pleasures, power, and recognition create strong magnetic attractions that pull consciousness back into physical incarnation. Blavatsky taught that these desires act like chains, binding us to the earth plane until they are either fulfilled or transcended through understanding. However, she emphasized that suppression is not the answer. Desire must be transformed, not eliminated. The key to working with desire constructively lies in redirecting it towards spiritual goals. Blavatsky taught that the desire for knowledge, truth, and service to humanity can become powerful forces for spiritual advancement. When our deepest longings align with universal purposes rather than personal gratification, desire becomes a vehicle for liberation rather than bondage. Attachment, closely related to desire, involves our emotional and mental clinging to people, places, ideas, and experiences. Blavatsky explained that attachment creates energetic cords that persist beyond death, drawing us back to complete unfinished emotional business. The strongest attachments often involve our closest relationships, which is why souls frequently reincarnate in groups, playing different roles across lifetimes. Blavatsky provided practical guidance for working with desire and attachment constructively. She taught that we can gradually loosen these bonds through developing dispassion, not indifference, but a state of engaged non-attachment where we participate fully in life while remaining inwardly free. This state allows us to fulfill our karmic obligations without creating new binding attachments. Chapter 6: The Mystery of Forgotten Lives. One of the most frequently asked questions about reincarnation is why we don't remember our past lives. Blavatsky's teachings provide profound insights into this apparent amnesia, revealing it as a compassionate design of nature rather than a limitation or punishment. Understanding why we forget and how memory can be recovered illuminates important aspects of the reincarnation process. Blavatsky explained that the forgetting of past lives serves several crucial purposes. First, it allows us to approach each incarnation with fresh perspective, unburdened by the accumulated psychological weight of countless previous experiences. Imagine trying to function normally while carrying the conscious memory of every trauma, loss, and failure from dozens of past lives. The psyche would be overwhelmed. Second, the veil of forgetfulness ensures that we cannot rely on past accomplishments or use past life knowledge to avoid facing current lessons. Each incarnation must be lived authentically, with the soul developing new capacities and understanding through direct experience rather than mere memory. This prevents spiritual pride and ensures genuine growth rather than intellectual accumulation. However, Blavatsky taught that past life memories are not truly lost. They are stored in the higher self and can be accessed under certain conditions. Dreams, meditation, and spontaneous flashes of insight sometimes provide glimpses into previous incarnations. More importantly, the essential wisdom and spiritual qualities developed in past lives remain as permanent acquisitions, manifesting as intuitive knowledge, natural talents, and inexplicable affinities. The process of spiritual development gradually thins the veil between incarnations. Advanced souls often retain conscious continuity across lives, while others may remember previous incarnations during deep meditation or at the moment of death. Blavatsky warned, however, that premature recovery of past life memories could be dangerous for unprepared minds, potentially causing psychological instability or spiritual pride. Chapter 7: Collective Karma and Group Reincarnation. Blavatsky's teachings reveal that we do not reincarnate as isolated individuals, but as members of soul groups that share collective karma and evolutionary purposes. This concept of group reincarnation explains many mysteries of human relationships and historical patterns, showing how souls work together across multiple lifetimes to fulfill shared destinies and learn collaborative lessons. Family karma represents one of the most intense forms of group reincarnation. Blavatsky taught that family members often reincarnate together repeatedly, playing different roles in each lifetime to work out complex karmic relationships. A parent in one life might become a child in the next. Siblings might become spouses, and enemies might become friends, all orchestrated by karmic law to provide opportunities for mutual growth and forgiveness. Beyond family groups, Blavatsky described larger soul clusters that reincarnate together to accomplish specific evolutionary goals. These might include artistic communities working to advance human culture, scientific groups pushing the boundaries of knowledge, or spiritual communities dedicated to spreading wisdom teachings. Members of these groups feel natural affinity and recognition when they meet, often accomplishing together what none could achieve alone. National and racial karma also plays a significant role in reincarnation patterns. Blavatsky explained that souls often incarnate within specific cultural contexts to participate in collective learning experiences and contribute to the evolution of entire civilizations. This helps explain why certain souls feel drawn to particular cultures or historical periods, and why some individuals seem to carry ancient wisdom or cultural memories. Understanding group karma helps us recognize the deeper purposes behind our relationships and life circumstances. Difficult relationships often represent opportunities to heal old wounds and transform negative patterns into positive ones. By approaching our connections with others as sacred opportunities for mutual growth, we can consciously participate in resolving group karma and advancing collective spiritual evolution. Chapter 8. The Devachan State and Life Between Lives. Blavatsky provided detailed teachings about the intermediate state between incarnations, which he called Devachan, a Sanskrit term meaning the dwelling of the gods. Understanding this crucial phase of our existence illuminates why we return to physical life and what transpires during our absence from the earthly plane. Devachan is not a place, but a state of consciousness, where the soul processes and integrates the experiences of its most recent incarnation. Blavatsky described it as a subjective state where consciousness dwells in perfect bliss, experiencing the fulfillment of its highest aspirations and noblest thoughts from the previous life. This period serves as both reward and preparation, allowing the soul to rest and assimilate its learning before taking on new challenges. The duration of the Devachan state varies greatly depending on the individual's spiritual development and the intensity of their earthly attachments. Blavatsky taught that highly evolved souls might spend relatively brief periods in Devachan, eager to return and continue their service to humanity. Conversely, souls with strong material attachments might spend much longer periods working through their desires and gradually preparing for rebirth. During Devachan, the soul is not idle, but actively engaged in spiritual contemplation and planning. Blavatsky explained that souls review their past life experiences, understand the karmic lessons involved, and participate in choosing the parameters of their next incarnation. This choice is made in collaboration with advanced beings who guide the reincarnation process, ensuring optimal conditions for continued growth. The Devachan state also involves reunion with loved ones who have passed before us, though Blavatsky emphasized that these encounters occur on a level of consciousness that transcends ordinary personality. The soul experiences the essence of its deepest relationships while gradually releasing attachment to their personal forms, preparing for new relationships in the coming incarnation that will serve its evolutionary needs. Chapter 9. Accelerating spiritual evolution. While most souls follow the natural rhythm of karmic unfoldment across many lifetimes, Blavatsky taught that conscious spiritual development can dramatically accelerate this process. Her teachings provide a blueprint for souls who wish to actively participate in their evolution, rather than passively experiencing whatever karma brings their way. The foundation of accelerated development is the cultivation of spiritual discrimination, the ability to distinguish between the eternal and temporary, the real and illusory. Blavatsky emphasized that developing this faculty requires rigorous study of universal spiritual principles combined with direct inner experience through meditation and self-reflection. Intellectual understanding alone is insufficient. Wisdom must be lived and embodied. Self-purification represents another crucial aspect of accelerated evolution. Blavatsky taught specific practices for purifying the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects of our being. This includes dietary considerations, emotional regulation, mental discipline, and ethical conduct that aligns with universal law. Purification creates a refined vehicle capable of receiving and expressing higher spiritual energies. Service to humanity stands as perhaps the most powerful accelerator of spiritual development. Blavatsky emphasized that souls advance most rapidly when they dedicate their lives to alleviating human suffering and promoting spiritual understanding. This service must be offered without expectation of personal reward, transforming the energy of giving into a vehicle for transcending self-centered consciousness. The practice of what Blavatsky called spiritual alchemy, the conscious transformation of lower energies into higher ones, can compress many lifetimes of gradual development into a single incarnation. This involves working directly with the 7 principles of human constitution, systematically refining each level while strengthening the dominance of the spiritual principles over the material ones. Chapter 10. The Law of Cycles and Planetary Evolution. Blavatsky revealed that individual reincarnation occurs within vast cosmic cycles that govern the evolution of entire planets, solar systems, and universes. Understanding these greater cycles provides context for our personal journey and explains why certain souls incarnate during specific historical periods to participate in planetary transformation. The doctrine of cycles, fundamental to Blavatsky's teachings, describes how evolution proceeds through alternating phases of manifestation and rest, activity and contemplation, descent into matter and return to spirit. These cycles operate simultaneously on multiple scales, from the brief cycles of daily consciousness to the vast cycles of cosmic creation and dissolution spanning billions of years. Our current Earth cycle, according to Blavatsky, represents a particular phase in planetary consciousness evolution. Humanity serves as the thinking principle within this planetary organism, and our collective spiritual development directly affects the planet's evolutionary progress. This explains why advanced souls often choose to incarnate during critical historical periods, bringing knowledge and inspiration needed for humanity's next evolutionary step. Blavatsky taught that we are currently transitioning between major evolutionary phases, with humanity gradually developing psychic and spiritual faculties that will eventually supersede purely physical capabilities. Souls incarnating during this transition period face unique opportunities and challenges as they must learn to bridge between the dying materialistic phase and the emerging spiritual civilization. Understanding these cycles helps explain why some lifetimes feel particularly intense or significant. They may coincide with crucial transition points in the planetary evolution. Souls that participate consciously in these transitional periods often take on greater karmic responsibilities, but also receive opportunities for accelerated spiritual advancement that might require dozens of ordinary lifetimes to achieve. Chapter 11. Breaking Free from the Wheel. While reincarnation serves essential evolutionary purposes, Blavatsky taught that it is ultimately a temporary phase in consciousness development. The goal of all souls is eventually to graduate from the necessity of physical incarnation, achieving a state of permanent union with the divine that transcends the cycles of birth and death. Liberation from the wheel of reincarnation does not mean escape from responsibility or service. Rather, it represents a transformation in the nature of consciousness that allows the being to serve universal purposes without being bound by personal karma or limited by physical form. Blavatsky described such liberated beings as Mahatmas, or masters, souls who have completed their human evolution but choose to remain accessible to help guide humanity's development. The path to liberation involves the complete transmutation of the lower principles and their integration with the higher ones. This creates what Blavatsky called the immortal man, a being whose consciousness has become permanently anchored in the spiritual realms while retaining the ability to function in all planes of existence. This process typically requires many lifetimes of dedicated spiritual practice. Blavatsky outlined specific stages in this liberation process. First comes the recognition of one's true spiritual nature beyond the temporary personality. Then follows the gradual purification and refinement of all aspects of being. Next comes the development of universal compassion that transcends personal preferences and attachments. Finally comes the complete surrender of the separate self to universal will and wisdom. However, she emphasized that liberation cannot be achieved through selfish motivation. The desire for personal escape from reincarnation actually reinforces the very sense of separateness that keeps us bound to the wheel. True liberation comes only when the soul's motivation becomes completely selfless, seeking freedom not for personal benefit, but to better serve the universal good. Chapter 12. Your Role in the Cosmic Drama. As we conclude this exploration of Blavatsky's teachings on reincarnation and karma, it becomes clear that each individual soul plays a unique and essential role in the vast cosmic drama of consciousness evolution. Understanding your place in this magnificent process can transform how you approach every aspect of your current incarnation, from daily challenges to life-changing decisions. Blavatsky emphasized that there are no insignificant roles in the cosmic drama. Every soul, regardless of its apparent status or circumstances, contributes essential elements to the whole. The person struggling with basic survival issues may be learning fundamental lessons about courage and perseverance that will later enable them to guide others through similar challenges. The individual blessed with abundance may be developing the wisdom and compassion needed to serve as a spiritual teacher in future lives. Your current personality, with all its strengths and limitations, represents a carefully crafted instrument for your soul's particular work in this incarnation. Blavatsky taught that we should neither be proud of our gifts nor discouraged by our limitations, but rather view both as temporary tools for accomplishing our spiritual mission. This perspective brings profound acceptance and peace while maintaining motivation for continued growth. The ultimate message of Blavatsky's teachings is profoundly empowering. You are not a victim of blind fate or cosmic accident, but a conscious participant in your own evolution and that of all life. Every choice you make, every lesson you learn, every act of kindness or courage contributes to the great work of transforming consciousness from its current limited state to its ultimate divine potential. By understanding the hidden cycle of karma and reincarnation, you can begin to live more consciously, making choices that align with your soul's highest purposes rather than merely serving temporary personality desires. This alignment brings not only greater fulfillment and meaning to your current life, but also accelerates your progress toward the ultimate goal that all souls share, the return to conscious unity with the divine source from which we originally emerged. What aspect of Blavatsky's teachings on reincarnation resonates most deeply with you? The idea of choosing your life circumstances, the role of collective karma, or the possibility of accelerating your spiritual evolution. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more explorations into the profound wisdom of the world's great spiritual teachers.